Here we go. All right. Can y'all see my slides in full screen view? Thumbs up
Yeah.
if you can. Okay, cool. Great. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome to the quarterly Texas Memory Cafe Network meeting. I'm Sarah Masood. I'm the one who's coordinating the Memory Cafe Network, but it's barely me. It's a lot of collaboration with other members of the network. So thank you for everybody who has helped us with all of our doings and activities. So today we are going to I'm going to quickly give some network updates since our last meeting, and then I'm going to lead a guided group discussion. And then we can all have a moment to share any important announcements, and then we'll discuss if the date works for us for the next meeting, which is, since we're quarterly, it would probably be January. Okay. So exciting updates. We have a new memory cafe operating under the umbrella of the Texas Memory Cafe Network. The Forget-Me-Nots have started under the Alzheimer's Association of San Antonio and South Texas chapter. And they are volunteer run. Kelsey, hi, thanks for coming. And Kelsey collaborates with a student on our team at UT Health and Diane and Ginny, of course, who do everything at the Alzheimer's Association, have been coordinating bi-weekly memory cafes that sort of branched off of their weekly support groups and have turned into something really great. So they have one tomorrow. Friday, where they're going to play animal bingo. So if y'all want to join, I'll send the link in the follow-up email later today. And then Camille's Memory Cafe, the last time we met, y'all were meeting once a month, and now you've moved bi-weekly, correct? You can just nod your head, Josie. Oh, let me open up the chat. So that's exciting. That's probably in response to a need met by the community, and I think that's really exciting. It's nice to have diversity in the network so that our families living with dementia can have options if they want to attend more regularly. So our Memory Cafe only has the capacity to plan once a month, whereas people like Josie are being able to offer this bi-weekly, which is really beneficial for me. I can refer people to Josie's Memory Cafe or the Forget-Me-Nots now, who are also bi-weekly if they want to be doing social events more often. So that's wonderful. For those of you who have been attending the network meetings, we know that we have a small grant, a very tiny grant to evaluate the memory cafes, and quite a few of you have referred families who regularly attend your memory cafes to me, and I've reached out to them for interviews. And we've just been evaluating the impact of memory cafes, and in particular, finding some really interesting differences between the impact of in-person memory cafes versus, the new COVID response version, which is virtual. So I'm excited to share those results at the next meeting. We've done quite a bit of preliminary analysis and finding a lot of wonderful findings. But rooted in what we're finding in those preliminary results is why I wanted to host a guided group discussion today, as opposed to our typical presentation followed by discussion. So I'm kind of thinking of today almost like a focus group of Memory Cafe coordinators, not necessarily, but just to kind of get a bit of a pulse check on what everybody's feeling, sharing lessons learned, and having more of an opportunity to work out some of the things that we've been trying to navigate as a network. Good morning, Annalisa. Hi. So I'm going to jump straight into the group discussion. And since we skipped the introductions today, please introduce yourself and your organization before you answer or contribute. So I'm going to start with a very basic prompt, which is what benefits would you like to see for attendees of your memory cafe? So we know that the goal of memory cafes is social connectedness. What I'm finding with these interviews is that there are other benefits. And so for me, when I'm planning my memory cafes, I'm trying to think of a few other things that I would like the families to be able to take away from the memory cafe experience besides the social connectedness, which is our primary goal. So I want to open it up to you in your planning, and almost just to say, why are you hosting these memory cafes, essentially? So what benefits are you hoping you'll see experienced by attendees? So feel free to hit unmute. If you're more comfortable raising your hand and being called on, that's fine too. Does anybody want to share? And if you're not hosting a memory cafe right now, you can still contribute by your goals. Maybe if you're wanting to start a memory cafe, you're welcome to share what you would like to get out of yours. Jim is hosting sort of memory cafe peripheral events called reminiscence programs, which is essentially a memory cafe. So feel free to speak up on that. And then if you just host other events in your community, please share what you're trying to do in terms of supporting families. I'm not going to speak anymore till someone else does.
I'll share. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
This is Kelsey, and I'm the Alzheimer's Association social work intern. And I really love that caregivers and persons living with dementia all get to intermingle during the memory cafe. Since we're so used to doing the support groups where they're separated, it's really great that everybody can come together for that social connectedness.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelsey. Yeah. And I do see that happening in your memory cafe where people do tend there's a lot of interaction between families and not just with the host and the attendees. Does anybody else want to share what their goals are?
Sarah?
Yeah.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Josie Zamora with The Gift of Time. And so we've been hosting Camille's Memory Cafe since May. And Jim has been one of our hosts, and he's done a great job talking about Alzheimer's baseball. It's drawn people in. We've also have extended our program, to twice a month. One of the things that I see when we interact with the participants is the families do love to speak, but one of the things that I always worry about is what kind of support systems they have when we go off the air, so to speak. And so I know this is not a support group, and I don't want to make it a support group, but I just kind of wonder, they look okay, but you never know how their day's going. And then the other thing is, one of the things that I've tried to do with COVID, we all know it's very hard to get out in the community, is do as much publicizing about what is a memory cafe. It's this ongoing teaching, educating the community. We used to run an ad in the paper for Camille's Memory Cafe. It's on our newsletter. We sent out a newsletter about a week ago. It happened to be Camille's kind of anniversary death. So she died on October 16th. And we sent out a newsletter honoring her memory, and then what is the cafe doing for our community. We did get positive feedback from that newsletter, so that was something very positive. Camille's Memory Cafe is actually named after the late wife of one of our board members, who is a very prominent figure in our community, who is passionate about our work. And so there's a connection there. The community know him, a great number of people know who he is, and they know his wife, Camille. And so, one of the things I struggle with is the education. What is a memory cafe? And then number two is we do a great job. I think Jim, Vic, and Reg do an awesome job with the games and the trivia. But again, I just kind of wonder what happens to them after we, kind of end the program. So if anybody has any ideas, because we don't ask a lot of personal questions, nor do I want to, 'cause it just adds more to the list. But I just want to make sure everybody's doing okay. So that's kind of the thing. And then we do offer them the events that we host, which is part of our Living Well with Dementia Education series. And you're all invited as well. Topics like sleep in memories coming up on November 3rd. I don't know why I scheduled it for that day, but that's the way it ended up. And families are welcome to that. We do have some families that join and they learn more about dementia and dementia behaviors. So I tried very hard to connect the two. But again, it's kind of an ongoing challenge with that. Data collection, I'm the cook and the bottle washer. So it's hard to, so if you guys have a real easy way to how to collect, keep record of attendance and all that and some other stuff, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Wow, Josie, and you touched on a lot of my supplemental questions that I have. That's amazing. So talking about education, teaching, building awareness, and then facilitating a connection, not just within the Memory Cafe, but what can happen beyond that space, outside, what's happening between those two events every month. I love that you're supplementing with additional events to fill the needs, their education and support needs in other ways. So that's wonderful. So this question came out of, seeing the interviews and hearing that when we've asked families, what are the benefits of memory cafes? And I thought, they're just not gonna, that's gonna stump them. And no, they say a lot of things, there's a lot of resource sharing that happens indirectly. There's a lot of peer support in other ways. So when we think of education, we don't have to sit with a formal presentation. A lot of caregivers that we interviewed for this project have been sharing. I like to watch the way other caregivers interact with their person living with dementia, and then I try to do that at home. And so this is an opportunity not just to build social connections and to play a game, but to empower people to learn care strategies and that can extend and benefit them over the course of the month. And also persons living with dementia. One person who attends our events regularly in the online context says, I like that I can have some wins. So basically, when she comes to the Memory Cafe and she participates in these things, she's reminded that she can still accomplish fairly complex tasks. I'm thinking in particular, we played Loteria, and this caregiver really resonated with that, saying, I went to my family and I said, look, I can still play Loteria. So it was a reminder that she still can do things. So when I think of that, we're building a sense of pride, we're empowering, we're educating, we're raising awareness. There's so much more that's happening beyond just playing a silly game together. Jim, are you unmuted because you wanted to share something?
Yeah, I wanted to tag
Great.
on to what Josie said. I've been doing baseball reminiscence in Central Texas for like the last 5 years. And what we've heard from the caregivers is there is some carryover, at least for the rest of the day. In some cases, it doesn't go on for the entire 2 weeks before we meet again. But the other thing that we're starting to find out now that we're doing programs online and we have more programs available, the same people are signing up for multiple events per week. So the other thing, because I need to leave, we're doing a pilot program on music reminiscence, old rock and roll, and we're doing it with Scotland. So we're going to have an international program that'll meet at 9 o'clock in the morning in Texas and 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Scotland. And so Scotland is the world leader in reminiscence programming. So he's already told me he has 15 groups that are ready to go full time in January. So my pitch is to you all that once we do the proof of concept, I'm hoping that we can get some participants from your cafes so that we can share old memories of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Herman's Hermits and blah, blah, blah with as many people as we can. So I apologize, I need to leave, but I applaud each of you for the good work you're doing to help these people that really need to be socially engaged.
Thank you so much, Jim. And I'll include the information in my follow-up email. I had a blast at your music reminiscence.
Thank you.
So have fun. Keep us posted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. So I'm gonna, unless anybody else has something else to say, I'm gonna move on to the next question. I'll pause for a few seconds. Okay, so let me share again. That was wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Okay. So next 2 questions I'm going to pop up are about challenges and successes. And Josie already shared about this. And again, it could be your challenges or, starting a memory cafe. It could be in whatever else you're doing in terms of your community work. what are some of the challenges in the virtual format that you've been experiencing? And if you want to add on some of the successes or maybe how you've addressed those challenges that you've been facing. I'll pause for 3 seconds to see if anyone wants to jump at that, or I can start talking.
I want to say something, Sarah.
Please do.
I'm Edward. I am with the Village at Sugarland, also the founder of Dementia Friendly Houston. And the challenges I'm facing is, even with Dementia Friendly Houston, is organizations not wanting to work together, and also different chapters of the Alzheimer's Association not wanting to partner and provide education and awareness. And so it's difficult to start a memory cafe because people feel like you're stepping on their toes.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Our Dementia Friendly San Antonio chair is on this call as well. First of all, let me just invite you to collaborate with us now that we're virtual. We might as well be neighbors. So please
Right?
reach out to us. But that is something, before I dominate the conversation, I just want to invite other people to share because I have a lot to say on this topic. Does anyone else want to address Edward's comments? No? Okay, go ahead, Ginny.
I'll say, I mean, I can't speak for other chapters, but there are 3 representatives from the Alzheimer's Association here today. So if there's anything that we can possibly do, again, I can't speak for other chapters, but in the state of Texas, we're all part of Region 7 and we work together. Actually, now that we're virtual, so much more than we have before amongst the chapters in Texas. So anything that we can possibly do, we have found that and I'm so sorry to hear what you said, because there's so much need out there. There's no way that the more we can work together, the more people we can reach. And ultimately, that's really what we're trying to do, is reach all those people who have no idea that support groups and classes and memory cafes, that actually, just with the representation on this call, if we all put our calendars together, families would probably have something to do every single day, but they don't know. And so we definitely want to work together because, we can reach more people. So again, if there's anything that we can do, I definitely will throw that out there for sure, because
Thank you.
we're
Yeah.
very, very collaborative. We want to help people. We want to reach more people. So
I think we've been a little bit spoiled here. I remember I moved to San Antonio just about 3 years ago, and I from El Paso, and I was kind of shocked. I couldn't really believe it that people were so collaborative here, and so willing. So there is a little bit of bias because I've come into territorial issues and hesitancy to collaborate for political reasons, or somebody burnt a bridge here and there. But generally speaking, we have such a strong need in the community that most people will just come back to that. Like, I cannot host as many educational events as Ginny and Diane can host. So why not collaborate? So that doesn't really answer your question though, Edward, because you're still dealing with some territorialness and some hesitancy to collaborate. And I would just say things like starting the Memory Cafe Network have been really helpful, because even though we've stayed fairly small, like Josie and I have never met in real life, but we're collaborating through the Texas Memory Cafe Network, and we'll send each other's flyers out, even if it's something small. And what I always try to do is start off the collaboration by promoting heavily another organization's events, especially because we're in an institution. I always come back to, if they're not for profit, I'm very comfortable. And if they're addressing a need that we don't meet at our institution, I will gladly promote the heck out of their events and their services. We added a page on our website with community resources that we took the TARC, the Texas, I don't know what TARC stands for, Texas Alzheimer's Research Consortium. care and caregiving, something like that. And they have an inclusion criteria for events that, or for organizations that they can safely promote. And I just took that inclusion criteria and I apply it to things that can go on our page. So if you're like WellMed or the Alzheimer's Association, like a lot of organizations will meet that criteria. They don't make money. We don't have to worry about predatory, you know, marketing budgets and stuff. So I would say leading the example to start off with, and I know you're doing dementia friendly, and I would love to talk to you more about how you're doing that, because we use our dementia friendly infrastructure to actually plan our memory cafes. So we created a work group off of the Dementia Friendly Advisory Board for San Antonio. And so we've broken off, and I see Diane added a comment. I just shared the Texas chapter's virtual education. Thank you. And I'll download that. So Edward, if you want to talk and we can kind of brainstorm some collaboration stuff, that's sort of my passion area.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I didn't have a nice, neatly packaged answer for you, but let's keep the dialogue open.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sarah, can I?
Hi, it's Jennifer. Sorry about that. I'm driving. I had to run my kid to school, but I did want to say hi. It's good to see you. Well, I'm not seeing you because I'm driving, but hello. And I look forward to also talking about, you know, more how we can collaborate with when we meet with the Texas Dementia Friendly networking meeting too. So I'm so glad you joined us today, and what wonderful feedback from everybody too.
Thanks, Jennifer. Drive safe. And then Josie, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say to Edward, one of the things that I've learned from the memory cafes from my mentor, Sarah, is that sharing and being open is so important. What I found, Edward, is that you're right. Sometimes you're kind of wondering, am I stepping on somebody's, you know, toes, or I don't want to offend anybody, or I don't want to feel like I'm taking over. And what I found that the approach that Sarah taught us, or taught me, was being so open and just inviting and just being, you know, say, hey, we're here. And eventually people start to acknowledge what you're trying to do. One of the things positive things that has happened that really came from Sarah was we played Loteria back in May, and a few community members attended. And that led to more interest about a gift of time, which led now to their group, which serves the underserved area, interested more in what we're doing. So I'm sharing with them how to play Loteria. So it had a ripple effect. So I do encourage you, just continue your work and continue to reach out, because it does make a difference. And I learned that from Sarah. She was very open, and she said, oh, sure, I can help you. She even mentored me how to hold the Loteria game. And so that just led to one thing, to another, to another. So I encourage you, just hang in there, but we're here for you. So again, thanks, Sarah.
Oh, Josie, it's just me trying to find an excuse to get you on a Zoom call to hang out with me. But no, for real, that's a great point. One thing I really appreciate you mentioning is just being transparent in your goals. And we try to embody the values that we would like to receive as well. So I share all of our content, any activity that we do, because we put so much work into translating all of our materials. I'll happily share them. I'll send you the link to our resource pack, which is any memory cafe related tool or materials that we've developed. I throw into a shared folder that you can link to anyone you want. And we also close no doors, even in the virtual environment. So we reach out through the Dementia Friendly America Network to invite people to attend. So absolutely, resource sharing, transparency. You know, I could really use more people at my events. What can I do to support you so you feel comfortable to refer people to our events and such like that? Just, you know, it always goes back to communication, huh? That's the answer to life's problems, is communication. So anyway, because we're running low on time, I just want to bring it back to some more. What we've talked a bit about, some of the challenges in terms of Josie earlier mentioned some data collection, which I have another question about later, so we can talk about that. And then there's the collaboration issues. Are there any other challenges, or if you'd like to share some successes, I'd love to hear that. Well, I can share that one of the challenges we've had in hosting online events, it's actually really easy to host a memory cafe in person. I can't believe I ever thought it was hard compared to what it's like to host a memory cafe online, because you put people in a room with a cup of, like a pot of coffee and some yummy snacks, and things just start happening. You know, it doesn't really matter what you have. My biggest struggle with in person was getting people to come, to drive across town to a designated location that only worked for a certain group of people. That was hard. So virtuals addressed that. But one of the main challenges, and I have to say is also now a success, I would say, we're still working on it, is facilitating inter-family connections. So having people meet new people is really hard in a virtual context. Like, y'all are kind of talking through me. What I love is that, you know, Josie and Edward, Ginny, we're all talking together, but that's really hard when you have an hour to play a game, to get families who have never met each other to somehow form a connection with another family. And then you add living with dementia, you add all these other elements. So I really struggled with that as a host. And my successes is I'm starting to see people over time, as the months are going by, recognize faces, remember people's names. There's a lot more crosstalk in our events now, where people are talking to each other. So I consider that a success. And it was a really scary struggle for me, because I thought, well, what's the point? If people aren't talking to each other, what am I doing with this? So anyhow,
in October's Memory Cafe, it was so much fun, and I saw a lot of that crosstalk and cross communication, and that was so cool to see. You know, familiar faces, getting excited about activities, and just chatting. Like, chatting is so important, and to virtually chat is really fun, and I think that it's getting like better and better, and I think it's really exciting. You're doing such a good job.
Oh, thank you so much, Annalisa. And Annalisa is on our working group also that plans the activities. And it was planned a lot around, you know, we meet once a month, and we sort of, just to make sure our activities are first fun and engaging, but also dementia friendly, and that will have those other benefits that we talked about. So a lot goes into the planning, but a lot of it also, I have to say, Annalisa, is because we've gotten to know each other. So when your core group of volunteers, like I've known Diane and Ginny forever. And so when we get on a call, we have rapport, we have a relationship that's built, and people feed on that energy. So there's no posing, you know, we have to be authentic. And, you know, if we're enjoying ourselves, I'm finding that, you know, the more authentic I am in my behaviors, people will pick up on that, even in a virtual sense, especially when we're talking about a group of people who are very emotionally aware. You might not have the cognitive capacities you used to have, or, you know, the memory, but you still have the emotional intelligence and sophistication to know when people are faking it. So,
well, it's so great that translates, like, you know, virtually, because, you know, that is something that you worry about with people with Alzheimer's and dementia, is that sense of, I don't know, like that virtual could be cold and just like, you know, computery and weird, but I think that it's just, it feels very warm, and the relationships that people have, you know, interrelationships, it's really nice. And I think that's apparent with seeing the people that have dementia and Alzheimer's that join. I think that they really do like it. And I think that it's very beneficial to them. I think it's really sweet.
Yeah, it is, right? At the end of the day, it's just a fun, warm space. Thank you, Annalisa.
Sarah,
Sure.
This is Diane. I'm with the association, the San Antonio and South Texas chapter. I just want to share, and I think, Annalisa, what you were saying too is what I've noticed, you know, even being more part of like the virtual, right? Because a lot of the in-person ones, you know, we didn't always get to go to because our schedule was doing other things. But I think too is being comfortable kind of with having to share a little bit. I think I'm seeing more sharing of ourselves as well, as facilitating the groups. I'm a social worker, so I'm always cognizant of that line of, right, we don't want to overshare, we don't want to transfer, but I do think that I've seen some great, where I think that's why the connections have happened too, because they're seeing us not only as the professionals, the facilitators, but I think in order to kind of facilitate some of that conversation, we've had to share a little more, about or what be part of the activity. So I think that's kind of been more positive. Where I was a little worried that it would be again a little too much in that connection, but I think it's in this platform, it just seems to just enhance it a lot more.
Absolutely. That's a really great point. Sharing your personal experience with dementia, but also silly things like what your first job was, and being able to let your guard down, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really feel organic if you have this sort of mechanical, removed person who's not participating in the activity alongside. And we have our director, who will join our Memory Cafe, never misses it. And she'll sit there and she'll talk about baking bread. Sometimes we'll even get emotional at the Memory Cafe. Really showing that human side has been beneficial. Thank you so much, Diane. That is a really great point. I love your mug. Just in case you forget your name, you have it right there. So I'm going to move on to the next one, just because we do have a lot. I added a lot of questions. I think if we don't get through all of these, would you all be open to maybe a Survey Monkey to add your thoughts and I can share with the group? Thumbs up would be great if you guys would. Okay, cool. So I feel less pressure to rush us through everything. I really want to focus on this question about accessibility. It's come up. Oh, thank you, Edward. It's come up quite a bit in our interviews, and the preliminary analysis that we're finding is this broader theme of accessibility. So this is really broad in terms of technology, but also language. So we host a bilingual memory cafe. Cesar was able to attend the last one to see what it looks like to host a bilingual event. I'd like to also talk about accessibility in terms of culture. What are you doing to make sure you're not catering to just one group? And that can be whether it's like in your memory cafe, or if you're partnering with other communities to host memory cafes that resonate more with their unique culture of their communities. And then how are you ensuring the accessibility of your activities? So just kind of opening it up to accessibility as a broad theme, whatever way that resonates with you. I'd love to hear how you're facilitating that. So I can share a bit. So we host our Memory Cafe bilingual, and I'd love to talk, I could talk about that forever, but it was really scary for me as somebody who's not fluent in Spanish. I understand enough to be able to follow along. And it just felt almost like, am I being authentic? Am I, and I think that's a fear a lot of us have, and why we don't host bilingual events, because, you might think that it might be insulting, or you might not do it right or whatever. But what I found was when we transitioned to virtual, all of the families that I used to meet who had a loved one living with dementia who only spoke Spanish, I was thinking, what's going to happen to them? And so we partnered with Noe and Gladys at UT Rio Grande Valley, and we just said, you know what, let's just do it. And kind of leaving my pride at the door and saying, I couldn't find a single model of bilingual memory cafes or online. I just couldn't. And so I just thought, you know what, let's just do it. And so we did it, and it was so well received. As I found that the kind of like what Diane was talking about, that humility and just being willing to be wrong and to learn. And there's a few really outspoken families living with dementia who attend our memory cafes who will private message me when we say something wrong in Spanish, or they'll say, they'll joke about it, or I'll get emails from them commenting, correcting my flyers when they're not totally great. And that's fine. I think that the point is we're trying, and we're trying to be accessible, and we're trying to be inclusive. And as long as you don't have a thick skin about it, I've learned that everybody benefits when you try to include everyone. So does anyone else have something to say about accessibility in their cafes or in their events? What about, Kelsey, not to put you on the spot, and it's okay if you'd prefer to, I hate putting people on the spot, but I'm curious to see in terms of planning your activities, what is your thought process as you're trying to plan an activity to make sure that it is dementia friendly and dementia accessible?
Yeah, so I think so far we're still in the beginning stages of our Memory Cafe, but we have tried to kind of stick with the season. So like the time of year that we're in, and then really simplifying it. Like, so we decided to do bingo, and Ashley had a really great dementia friendly version of it. So that's what we're going to be doing on Friday, and just making sure there aren't any barriers. We don't really have, we don't have any bilingual programming yet, but I do think that you have a great example of it, and we would love to incorporate that, and just making sure that we stay inclusive. So just making sure not everything's not too complex for everybody.
Right. Thank you. And I think that's part of the challenge that I even had in person, was planning activities that are not infantilizing and not condescending, that still celebrate, dignity and ability, while also not maybe putting pressure. Or we want people to walk away from the Memory Cafe feeling that they were successful and that they had a win for the day. So Josie, I saw you unmuted.
I just wanted to say, again, when we started A Gift of Time before COVID, we had no programs running at all. So Camille's Memory Cafe has been one of our signature programs. And what I wanted to share with the group, because, and again, I hope I don't come across as boastful, but I wanted you to be inspired by the work that's being done, not only by the network, but also with Beth Schulzberg. But I'm just going to share my screen. There's two things that have come out of.
Hold on. There you go. You're a co-host now.
So can everybody see my screen yet?
Not yet.
Okay, let me see if I can, whoops. Let's see, what do I need to do, Sarah, to share?
Well, I made you a co-host, so you should be able to just click share screen, and then a box will pop up for you to choose your application.
Okay, so I just want to show you guys a couple of things here. So this is our logo.
We can't see anything. Oh, there we go. There we
go. So this
is
our logo for Camille's Memory Cafe, and we made a brochure. It talks about memory cafes, and it talks about her. So again, we connected
a cute logo.
Thank you. We connected it to a community member. So that's one. This will eventually be translated into Spanish with our brochure. And then the other thing that we've done on our website, and I know it's kind of hard for people to kind of, let's see if I can get to the website.
And we can't see, I think you shared the app specific instead of your screen in general, so we can only see Camille's logo now.
Okay, I took it off. Can you see my, let's see, I want to restart.
You have to stop sharing and reshare.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
And this happens at our meetings too. Can y'all see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we had to revamp our website, but you see this part right here? We've also included Camille's Memory Cafe, and that was another way that we try to reach out to a diverse population, which, it's part of our program. And then for the calendar, what we've done is for every Memory Cafe, we put it on our calendar so people know that it's there. So that's another way. And then we always look at, like Sarah has taught us, again, Sarah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to pick on you, but that's where I'm learning. Is to be able to kind of celebrate the holiday or maybe the culture. That's vital too, without feeling, like when we did Loteria, we did it in May, and so that's been all kind of wrapped up together. So I just wanted to share those ideas with you. So hopefully we've had some success with that, but again, it's still an ongoing process to get us to have more attendees for our programs. So I don't know if that was helpful or not, but there you go.
No, that really is helpful. It is. And I love that, Josie, I've learned a lot from you starting as a virtual memory cafe. And now Diane and Kelsey and Ginny have started theirs during COVID. And so I've learned a lot from watching you. I had the benefit of having operated for over a year by the time COVID happened. We had already built a sort of base of people that kind of transitioned to online with us. And so I had a better sense of who we were losing through the process and who we were not reaching. Whereas for you all, you're sort of having to guess about your communities and your networks, who's not here because they can't be, and who's not here because, you know, there's a lot of technological marginalization. We're in Texas, there's a lot of rural communities. We work with older adults. So we've done a lot of back end work with we've had to supplement our program with the caregiver reassurance volunteer program because not everyone can get on a Zoom call or wants to. It's not about inability, it just isn't for everyone. So how can we make sure we're still addressing the social connectedness needs of families? And so I feel for you, but I'm also blown away by what you all are doing because, like, I don't know how I would respond if I hadn't been operating already in person. So I think y'all are doing a wonderful job, and it's really easy to promote all y'all's memory cafes because you're doing a super great job. Because we only have 15 minutes, I'm going to share my screen and just kind of throw the last of the questions all on one screen so that we can kind of just have a rapid fire round just to kind of think these through, and then I'll send it out as a survey as well later. So if more pops into your head after the meeting. But basically I'd like us to discuss, sorry, I'm kind of fiddling about. Okay, so do you think you've been successful in addressing the social connectedness needs of families living with dementia? So it's one thing to try, but do you think that you've been able to? And I really pulled this question out to sort of focus on it because, you know, it sort of speaks to hosting the online events is great. But if you're just hosting kind of an online event where you're just talking at people, is that really meeting the needs? Is that really achieving the goal of your event? If you're hosting bingo every week, every month or twice a month, is that really facilitating connection between families, building community, or is that just it serves a purpose? And then the rest of the questions, evaluating what are you doing? Are there tips, tricks, or struggles you've had around evaluating the impact? And in particular, are you adapting the plans? Are you adapting your activities based on the feedback of your community? So if you're planning things because you think they're fun, that's great. But are you planning events that specifically are responding to the expressed needs, interests, and desires of your community that you're hoping to serve? And then just any broad lessons that you've learned as you've hosted or been trying to host online events, whether it's a memory cafe or something else, to support the social engagement in a virtual environment. So I'll leave these on the screen for a bit until somebody wants to kind of pick one and share. Go ahead, Ginny.
Sure. And I forgot, I meant to say, I'm Jenny Funk. I'm the Director of Programs for the San Antonio and South Texas chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. And we cover 43 counties. So we go all the way to Brownsville. And so this is kind of overarching, Sarah, but when I think about, are we doing the best that we can in promoting social connectedness, I thought of two things. One, and this doesn't necessarily apply overall to memory cafes, but just in general, I think we've had to be very adaptive and able to just change if we need to. So for example, we offer a class on behaviors for caregivers every week on Wednesdays at noon. And we have a PhD volunteer who volunteers her time to do this class. And we have one person that comes on. And so instead of, we have to go through this PowerPoint class of behaviors and follow the script and follow all of that. We just absolutely have had to be adaptive that we have one person on the line. And so we ask, do you actually want to see these slides, or would you rather spend this time? You literally have one-on-one attention from one of us on staff and this phenomenal Dr. Lozano, one of our wonderful community volunteers who does everything. And so instead, it just turned into a discussion of what behaviors are you experiencing, and let's talk through them and see how we can help. So I think the same thing that does kind of apply to everything that we're doing, whether it's Memory Cafe or support group, just having to sort of let go. And that definitely, I'll just speak for myself, that applies for me too, because I've been doing this a long time. So I'm sort of, change is different, but having to adapt right then and go, okay, we need to do whatever this family needs, or if it's someone with dementia, we just need to do whatever they need. And the other second half of that, I'll just say, I felt like this for a while, that we have some families that are definitely telling us our loved one does not get anything out of Zoom. It's confusing. They don't seem to enjoy it. When are we going to be back in person? When are we going to be back in person? And I just wondered if maybe that's a topic for something else, but I do feel like in some ways we're not meeting what they need, because as an organization, we're not going back into person until things are safe, and we don't know how long that's going to be. So we have to keep offering things like memory cafes and classes and support groups virtual. It's, it can be for a while. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. That in some ways I feel like, oh gosh, this is just going to get harder and harder, even though we're almost in November. Can you believe this process? We're almost in November. And so, but this could go on a while more. So anyway, I just think we're doing the best we can, but we definitely need to be adaptive and able to just, okay, we got to switch. We got to do something different.
Absolutely. Yeah, I learned that from caregivers. You have to adapt. It's true caregiver form. You have to go with the flow, and keep your end goal, which is supporting families living with dementia. So how do we keep doing that? Annalisa, I saw you unmuted. Do you want to respond?
I did. I just have a quick question for Jenny. For the people that are giving you the feedback about the Zoom being too much, do you think that that's for, is it because the Zoom groups are becoming too large? Like, do you think like a one-on-one Zoom or anything like that, offering something like that would be helpful? Or is it just the virtual thing? Because I totally get that. I used to try to FaceTime with my grandmother, and she wouldn't even know where to look on the phone, and it was just too much. So I understand that. I just was wondering if that's if a smaller breakout room or one-on-one is a possibility.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we can do that. Absolutely. We call that kind of care consultation, where we can do the one-on-one. I would honestly say I don't think it's from size, because we're not getting a huge turnout on really any of the things that we're doing. So I don't know that it's size, but just the confusion, like you said,
Yeah.
How exactly is this working? And I think also in some cases it for individuals who are further along in the process, and maybe we're trying to, do something and socially connect, whereas for them, it's just too confusing.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Definitely, my mind always goes to just, do you have access to Wi-Fi? Do you have access to a computer? But some people are progressed to the point where, like, I don't think my grandfather, in the last 2 or 3 years of his life would have been able to interact on a Zoom call, especially to the degree. So I try to address that in my planning, like the last Memory Cafe, instead of just having a conversation, which is a little harder for more progressed people, to add in that drawing element that Dr. Meyer suggested at the work group meeting. So the caregiver can participate in conversations while their loved one is maybe drawing. Yeah, you have your drawings. Those are so cute. I actually outsourced the template to my younger sister, so she made those. But anyway, so there is that. But Ginny, we're having the same problem. There are families who are very resistant, whether it's because of preference or because their person living with dementia will not sit still on a call, and it's hard. So we've supplemented with reassurance calls, and I also have been just on my own sending letters with pictures of my face. I know I feel so weird printing photos of my face, but the families say it helps because they can show, remember Sarah, she works with Carol, no one can forget our director. And so I've been just sending letters with photos saying thinking of you, and that it's not the same, but it's something. Hi, Noe.
You are so awesome, Sarah. That is phenomenal.
Oh, it's a small thing you can do, and it costs 50 cents, so I'm also thinking somebody at the work group recommended a postcard writing activity at our memory cafe, which I think would be cool to send letters from the memory cafes to their friends. Hi, Edward, you unmuted.
Yeah, there was, so I'm a part of this, a part of a United Way interagency group here in Houston. And there's 2 dementia day programs here in Houston, the Amazing Place and Baker Ripley, that they shared yesterday. I forget which one it was, but for those that were struggling with like Zoom and stuff, they had a bus, and they did, and I don't know how people are feeling where y'all are at. They had a bus, a tour bus that came in. Well, it was just a regular shuttle bus, and it picked up like a maximum of 6 people. And they did a tour of Houston in COVID safe places. I don't know if that's something that y'all thought about or can do or are comfortable doing.
Exactly. So I think, and I try to offer those, like we can't host those. And I think Ginny was saying the same thing, like, because we have powers that make decisions for us, whether we're comfortable or not is irrelevant. We just aren't allowed to. But for those families who seem to have a much more high comfort level than I even personally have to socialize, I always try to bring it back to the science, bring it back to, make sure you're safe, but to understand weighing risk and benefit. Somebody saying, it could be my last chance to celebrate my wife's birthday with her. I don't want to do this closed in a house over Zoom. So kind of trying to help families walk through the process of weighing their risk and benefits. And I always do this sort of, it's a little clinical, but I always say, have you talked to your doctor, and ask your doctor how you can still celebrate a birthday, or, and then one thing we do at our memory cafe, and I love this sort of transition, the memory cafe is also a space where families have been giving tips and tricks for how they've been more socially engaged outside of the cafes. So one family was sharing, we were just getting cabin fever, so we decided to get in the car and drive. I don't know where it is. I don't know the outskirts of San Antonio too well, but they just drove to some sort of park, some state park, and just spent the day kind of outside together as a household. And then the Alzheimer's walk, yesterday we had a call for one of our grants, and that was an opportunity to get out in an outdoor space, a relatively safer. I don't know. I feel uncomfortable. I'm not a clinician, so I feel uncomfortable talking about what's safe and what's not. But I think the heart of it is helping families walk through the risk benefits for their own preferences and priorities is what I've been doing. I love that you're partnering with day programs, Edward. We have a couple of day programs that shut down here too, who have been really instrumental in promoting our cafes to people who we otherwise wouldn't connect to. So that's great. Thanks for hopping on. Well, thanks for activating your camera, Noe. It's great to see you. Noe is my co-host. Can you unmute if you're talking?
Well, yes. Well, I was just listening, and I wanted to know, everything I learned. I have learned a lot because, I'm new on this. And actually, Gladys wanted to, do a cafe over here, and that's the reason we're trying to do something here. And I know Jeannie said that she worked all the way to Brownsville. I would like to know if you know any organizations, that have caregivers or things like that, because that's what we're looking for. If you have anything, it will be nice to, if you can send it to me or and see. And we wanted to have those connections. But yes, we do. I do like the Memory Cafe a lot. It's very, it's something new for me, and it's nice to hear you guys and all the things you guys are doing, and it's just wonderful. I really like it.
Well, I love co-hosting with you. Everybody loved you. You were a success.
So I didn't, there were some mistakes, but it's it's something that we are doing with the community of dementia. Sometimes you forget things, and you just go through it and see what we can do. But the longest we're connecting and saying those things that you want to say, and have them happy, and everybody being connected and having fun and doing this. I know I do like it. I like it.
I like it too. I've had to be very humbled, and I've had to let my pride go, because I don't think I go a single day without making a lot of mistakes. So that's part of it.
You're doing a great job, Noe.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And Noe, let me introduce you to Cesar. Cesar is our newest staff person who's actually covering the Rio Grande Valley. He's in the valley. So yeah, we'll make sure and make sure everyone has each other's emails and everything.
Oh, let me put it right here so I can have it.
Wonderful.
Morning, Noe. Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
I'm definitely here, and I'll make sure to put my contact information in the chat right now. I just wanted to say something real quick. I feel like an outsider looking in. This is my 4th week with the Alzheimer's Association. Even though I've done social services and social programs for various years, the first thing, and I actually took a 5-year break out of my professional life to care for my dad and to support my mom while he was going through his process of Alzheimer's and other dementia. Recognizing that you want to be accessible, that you need to be accessible, that you're not you don't have your blinders on like a horse, a racing horse, knowing that you want people to be involved. That's huge. That is huge. And I just want to make sure that you all know that and that y'all, pat yourself on the back, because y'all are doing an awesome job, man. These 4 weeks that I've been learning so much about, of course, our organization, but about the other organizations that are working together. That didn't happen, very recently. That didn't happen. And it's not happening right now, unfortunately, in Houston, but it will. It will. Knowing that together, everyone achieves more. Team.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Cesar. You were on the Memory Cafe call, but I didn't get to really know you. So I'm glad to know more about you. Thank you so much. And welcome. You're part of our little Texas network family. So we're right up at about time, and I'm going to stay on the call. So our institutional Zoom doesn't let me copy paste the chat. So I have to actually manually type it over into a Word document. So I'm going to hang out a little bit longer. But if you all want to stay connected, I'm going to follow up later today with a mass email so you can find each other's emails in there. And please share with me any important announcements. We don't have time today in the agenda for that. And then I'll send the survey out soon. Just really quick, is there any reason why January 27th would not work for anyone for the network meeting, the next meeting? It's just sort of, January doesn't feel like don't know about planning anymore. Why not? So I'll send it out. I'll tentatively, or I guess, you know what, I'll just go forward with planning it for January 27th. And so if you can be there, great. If not, share with me anything you'd like shared at that. And if you would like to present, I think we're going to focus a lot on the results of the evaluation. But if you have anything that you'd like to present on, maybe some things about your memory cafes, send me an email and we can make time in the agenda for that. Okay. Okay. A memory cafe, big self hug. I wish I could hug you all. But have a wonderful week. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you,
Very much.
Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
See you, everybody.
Bye.